Hello everybody, and in the last video in our series creating an avalanche game, I worked on making us boosters. So, last episode we worked on boosters, these speed and jump boosters, which increase your speed and jump when you hit them. So for this episode we're going to be working on something a bit similar, which are things where they're like the boosters, except when you touch them, instead of giving you a speed boost or a jump boost, they actually create a big block that will block snowballs from hitting you. So, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get one of our speed or jump boosters, and we're going to duplicate it. The only reason I duplicate these is to make things a bit quicker. So the next thing is put it to where you want your speed and jump boosters to be. Say I want my speed and jump boosters to be, I want one of mine to be right here. Next, you want to color it whatever you want. It doesn't matter what color you put it, but I'm going to change it to green. And then change its name in the Explorer tab to something such as blocker pad. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to create the block that it will put in place to block things, which I'm going to make, I'm going to make right now. So it doesn't matter how you make it, but if you want to copy what I'm doing, you can. I'm going to use the transformation tool to make things a bit quicker, and it won't be too complicated. It shouldn't be too complicated to make this. So yeah, you can skip forward in the video. I'm just going to make this right now. And yeah. Okay, so I've created the shape that I want to use in my game. This is the block that I want to appear. So now that you've created the block, we're going to use something called unioning. So find these two wedges in the Explorer, or however you built your thing. And then, so you have to find a way to select both of these at once. So it takes a bit of work, but eventually you should be able to select both of your pieces at once. So you can look up to the sky or something, and then copy or drag like this, and then hopefully, yeah. Now I've selected both of these. You can see the blue boxes around them. So now that we've selected both of these, we're going to go into either the Home or the Model tab, or no, just the Model tab, and then find the area saying Solid Modeling and hit the Union button. Once you hit the Union button, you'll see it becomes one part. There's no longer two blue boxes. There's one now. And then you can name this to something like block, and then 1 or something. So now that we've done that, we can just change this thing's transparency to 1, its can collide to off, and anchored to true. So now that we've done that, we're going to click back onto our blocker pad that we made at the beginning of the video, and then open up its script in the Explorer. double tap that to open up its script. And then we can delete this part. But this part is needed. Again, a refresher, this is a function. It fires when this event happens. So when something touches this part right here, our pad, the code that is inside of here will fire. And then this is a parameter. This will tell us what touched that. And this is an if statement. And what an if statement is pretty much the code inside of here will run if this is true. And in this case, nil means nothing. This means does not. And then all of this will tell us if it's a player, pretty much. That's what all of this stuff. In the last video, again, I already covered this. But now what we're going to do is, it's going to be a bit more complicated than our boosting. So, first thing that we're going to do is local block1 equals, and then game dot workspace, and then whatever you named it. I named it block1, so that is what I'm going to do. So this just gives us a variable. That way, instead of having to say this is something, or instead of having to say that we want to make this appear and not be transparent, and also this can collide, so that things can collide with it. Instead of having to put all of this, we can just put block1. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to do a for loop. So for I equals 1, comma, and then 5. So a for loop is a bit different than a while loop. And what a for loop is a for loop is something where the code inside of this area right here will happen. Okay, it's hard to explain. So there's many parts of a for loop. This is one of the main parts. This 5, that means that until I equals 5, until I is more than 5, this will run. And then this means that I equals 1, and then every time we go through this, there will be one more added to I, meaning that this should run 5 times. So the next thing that we're going to do is block 1 dot transparency equals block1 dot transparency minus 0.1. So this means that it will gain 1/10 of its visibility, so we'll be able to see it slightly better for 5 times, each of these 5 times. And then we're going to put wait 0.1, which means, of course, wait 0.1 seconds, meaning that it will run through this, and it will wait a total of 5 seconds, or it will wait a total of 0.5 seconds, while it also becomes not transparent. So after 5 seconds, it will be half visible, half invisible. And then, actually, before this area, we should put block1 dot can collide equals true. That way, things can collide with it. So now that we've done that, we're going to put a wait, and you're going to put how long we want to wait for, or how long you want the block to stay there when someone hits it. So I want to give a player 10 seconds. So that's good. And then we can put for I equals, pretty much, we can just copy and paste this, like that. And then the one difference is this minus sign, you change to a plus. So now, what we'll see is if we load the game, then, if we load the game, I just changed from 50 seconds to 1 second, that way every second a snowball would appear. Because before it was running, so every 50 seconds a snowball would appear. But now that we've done that, you'll see that if we were to touch this, right, these appear, which is pretty cool, I think. However, we're not finished. I mean, you don't need to go further in this video, but I am going to. So you can see it transitions pretty nicely. It's pretty nice. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to improve this, because there's something that you noticed. I said that it would be half transparent and half not transparent, but we're actually going to make it so that but as you saw, it was fully visible. You couldn't see through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a system that way, whenever, like, that way it doesn't become fully visible. And the reason why it's becoming fully visible is because it's running this function multiple times, because every time we touch it, this function runs. So we need to fix that so it only runs once. So in order to do that, there's many ways that you can do it, but I find the quickest way, if you just want to make it, if you don't really want to switch all the code to change it, the quickest way is to just create a variable, and just call it like check or something, and then equals false. And then pretty much what we're going to do is if check equals true, then return end. And so this means that if this variable becomes true, then we're going to return, which means to end this entire function. We won't go to this part. And then we're going to do check equals true. That way, or check equals true. So what this means is that it should only run once, because it's going to check if check equals true. So it's going to check if it's already been here, if it's already done this before, which means has it already done this function. And if it hasn't done this function, then it's going to move on to this. And then we're going to put a delay. Also, just to make this look a bit better, this is optional, but you don't need to do this. But I'm going to make it change color while you aren't allowed to press the button. While pressing the button won't work. So we're going to make it, in order to do that, script.parent.color equals color 3, or sorry, color 3, and then dot from RGB, and you can hit this rainbow wheel and then choose a color. I'm just going to make mine gray. And then pretty much what this code does is it changes the color of this pad that we have, the blocker pad. And then put your delay. You can choose whatever you want. I'm going to make it, after hitting this, you have to wait 5 seconds before you can hit it again. And then you're going to copy this, and paste this, then find the color. For me, I put 0, 255, 200, or 0. So whatever you see in the color in the properties tab when you have blocker pad selected. And then now we're just going to put one more thing, check equals false, and then watch this. If we load, not only will it not be transparent, or not be fully visible. Wait. Hold on. So, I forgot that we have this thing to check if humanoid is true. So, simply just move that if statement out, and then move this other end, So this code's a little messy, but pretty much just move that if statement that had the humanoid part out so that it covers the entire thing. So now if we go through, you'll see it should work. It will still be green, which is good. That's a good sign. And then we hit this, it turns that color, and then it will turn gray once this disappears. Right? And you can see it turns gray, showing us that we can't touch this, which is nice. Although, one last thing, sorry this video is getting long, but one last thing I forgot to do, something very quick, is that just put enter and then block1 dot can collide equals false. That way the snowballs won't collide with the block after it's already disappeared. So now everything should be finished. I think we'll finally be able to end the video. And if we go over here, you can see the block appears. We can see through it since it's semi-transparent, but also semi-not. So we can tell it's there, but we can also see through it. And then it disappears. This turns gray. It's as if the block never existed. After 5 seconds, we can hit it again. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye.